And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Del Vecchio here. As mentioned, just before we headed out to traffic, this coming Tuesday, April 1st, is National Caregiver Day. And did you know that almost 1 in 4 Canadians are caregivers? In fact, employee caregivers make up 35% of the total Canadian workforce, representing 1 in every 3 employees. And almost all caregivers are unpaid, and they were most likely thrust into the role of a caregiver with no formal training. It can certainly be stressful, exhausting, and overwhelming. Well, I'm joined by caregiving specialist Claire Webster. Claire is the founder and ambassador, McGill Dementia Education Program, and also the founder and president of Caregiver Crosswalk. Claire, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, thank you for joining me here, Claire. First, though, how about a huge congratulations to you, Claire, on recently receiving the King Charles III Coronation Medal. Fantastic job and huge congrats, Claire.
Oh, thank you so much. Very humbling, that's for sure.
For those listeners that don't know what that medal is, it is really special. Very, very few. The medal was just issued to 30,000 Canadians across the country that have made a significant contribution to Canada or to a particular province, territory, region, or community in Canada, or attained an outstanding achievement abroad that brings credit to Canada. You were one of those people, Claire. Very impressive and so well-deserved. Kudos to you. All right. I know you are a person in high demand. First of all, part of the reason I think is what your story is and how you ended up being such an advocate for caregivers. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So, I was what we call the sandwich generation caregiver. I was in my late 30s. I had 3 very young children working full-time in a totally different field. My dad had passed away in 2005 of congestive heart failure, and a year later my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and I went into this journey of caring for her with absolutely no information, education at all about the disease. The only prescription of care that we received when she was diagnosed by a neurologist was "Good luck, Mrs. Webster." And, as a result of not being properly educated about the illness or how to navigate the healthcare system, inevitably, I suffered a very, very severe burnout a few years later, which is quite common among caregivers. And I really felt that if I would have been properly educated and supported, it would have had a more significant impact on the quality of care that my mother should have received, and it would have also had a ripple effect on my own health and well-being. So I really decided to become an advocate in the space of caregiver education relating to dementia.
You really have. It's become your life mission, Claire, and we've come a long ways from "Good luck, Mrs. Webster." And a lot of it is due to your efforts as well in starting up the McGill Dementia Education Program. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But there are some individuals, Claire, that are just beginning their caregiver journey, and others who have been caregiving for years. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to caregivers?
Well, the first thing I would be is every time you know that you have that doctor's appointment, whether that's your first appointment or it's any appointment, is to arrive prepared with a list of questions, because you can really properly be educated by the healthcare professional, not only in terms of the disease, but in terms of what are the resources available. Unfortunately, doctors only have about 10 to 15 minutes to spend per patient, so it's really the people that arrive prepared that have that list of questions. So you want to be educated no matter what the illness is, whether that's for yourself or for somebody else. And if you don't understand what you're being told, please ask questions. So become educated. You want to be one step ahead at all times of the disease. Understand how it's going to progress, how it's going to evolve. And then, as your guest so incredibly pointed out, what are the resources in the community that could support you? As your first guest, Jerry, said, you also want to understand what are the wishes of your loved one, or what are their because finances cause so much stress among people. So, if something happens to somebody, like what are their bank accounts? Like, where's that safety deposit box? Like, what are their wishes? Like, what do they want, right? And I think also that you have to know that as a caregiver, an emotion I hear hear often from people, it's anger. If that's how you're feeling, you're not alone. Like, anger is normal. And, most importantly, because I know we're pressed for time, Matt, because I could spend a whole hour just talking about this, but I think most important, you have to really prioritize your own health and well-being. Because, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And you have permission to say no, and you have permission to have a life. And just know that you have to constantly be flexible, right? So what's working today isn't going to work tomorrow. So just give yourself a break and be kind to yourself.
Listening to Life Unrehearsed, Matt Delvecchio here, and talking with caregiving specialist Claire Webster. Love the fact that you brought up self-care. So important. Claire, you were one of those, I guess, superheroes trying to do it all, right? And you've experienced it firsthand, and you're speaking from the heart. You got to remember to take care of yourself as a caregiver as well. Now, Claire, I want to switch it a little bit. I was with a client, interestingly, this week, and their mother has something referred to as anosognosia. And you see a lot of this. First time I heard that word, but you see a lot of it in your line of work. What is anosognosia?
Oh, I see a lot of it. So anosognosia really means a loss of insight, okay? And it's a common condition that's caused by dementia where, unfortunately, many people are really unaware or they deny the existence of their own illness, okay? Unfortunately, it also makes it so that people will start to have false beliefs. So they may believe that somebody's stealing from them, cheating on them, that the family's out to get them. And it's a real condition because they actually believe these thoughts, or they believe that nothing's wrong. And because of anosognosia, it could make it very difficult for a family member to bring their loved one to see a doctor because, again, they don't believe that anything is wrong.
Yeah, and the more we are talking to caregivers, Claire, we hear and see this all the time, and it's a difficult one to deal with. But know that it's recognized; it's actually called something, anosognosia, and it's important. It's difficult because if you now are already at the inapt stage, it's hard to not admit that there is something potentially wrong with you. Now, Claire, you talk a lot about this. You talk a lot about caregivers in the McGill Dementia Education Program. You are the founder and ambassador for the McGill Dementia Education Program. It's now one of the country's leading resources for caregivers. Can you tell us about some of the resources available?
Yes, well, I'm so grateful to McGill University. I had no prior affiliation to McGill, but I knew that I was living in a city where we had one of the best medical schools in the world, and I partnered with McGill in 2017 to develop this program, not only for the community, but for healthcare professionals and medical students. So one of our most important resources, if people go to mcgill.ca/dementia, we've developed a dementia companion guide, which is free to download, and it's available in 14 languages. It's circulated throughout all of the MUHC geriatric and the hospital clinics. You could get a printed copy. You just have to go online, and we'll tell you how to get a printed copy, but you could download it for free. We also have a free online education program. We have a lot of videos that are teaching caregivers how to do leisure and recreation activities with their loved one. And we also have a whole series of virtual support groups that people could participate in as well.
Continues to grow. You're adding on to it all the time, Claire. Really fantastic work. If our listeners need to get a hold of you, Claire, how can they do that?
So they could call me at 514-968-4455. They can go on my website at carecrosswalk.com or visit the website at mcgill.ca/dementia.
mcgill.ca/dementia. Tons of information. As you mentioned, Claire, a lot of it is for free. Just download it all. Thank you so much again, Claire. Love having you on the show. Always full of great information and tips for resources.
Thanks for having me, Matt. All the best.
Okay, thank you. Again, National Caregiver Day this coming Tuesday. That's Claire Webster, caregiving specialist, and she's the founder and ambassador of McGill Dementia Education Program and president of Caregiver Crosswalk. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to Life Unrehearsed. And as a reminder, for all your inquiries or assistance with home care, downsizing in the senior living industry, it'd be my pleasure to help. You can find out more if you look up Premier Home Care or Lianas Senior Transition Support. That's Lianas, Lianas Senior Transition Support, a free service for families to assist families in their search for an ideal senior living community. Many thanks to Dario Di Felici. Great to have you back on the board, Dario. Great show. And have a great week, everyone.